In today's fast-paced world, where kindness is often hailed as the ultimate virtue, it's easy to overlook the potential pitfalls that come with being excessively nice. Picture this: you're in a bustling New York City cafe, and your friend Sarah, a marketing manager, is juggling multiple projects. She's the go-to person for everyone in her circle, always volunteering to help with tasks, attending every social gathering, and making sure everyone feels supported. But as she stretches herself thinner and thinner, she starts to feel overwhelmed, exhausted, and even resentful. This scenario is all too common. Many of us want to be kind and helpful, but in our quest to be the kindest version of ourselves, we sometimes forget the importance of balance. The ancient Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca understood that while kindness is a virtue, it must be practiced with moderation and self-awareness. Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. This insight is crucial. It highlights that our mental state and capacity to help others depend significantly on how well we manage our own lives. Consider how often we might say yes when we really want to say no. Maybe you've been in a situation where you agreed to help a friend move, even though you had your own deadlines to meet. Or perhaps you've accepted an invitation to an event that you'd rather skip just to avoid disappointing someone. These acts of kindness, while well-intentioned, can lead to a cascade of stress and frustration. When we overcommit ourselves, we risk diluting the very kindness we wish to express. Moreover, the Stoics teach us about the concept of living in accordance with nature, which includes understanding our own limits. This means recognizing that just as a teacup can only hold so much tea, our capacity for commitments is finite. If we pour in too much, it overflows, creating a mess that benefits no one. We must learn to know the size of our cup, which is not about being unkind, but about being kind to ourselves first. As we embark on this journey to explore the surprising ways that kindness can backfire, I encourage you to reflect on your own acts of generosity. Ask yourself, are these actions truly benefiting both me and those I'm trying to help? Or am I sacrificing my own well-being in the process? In this video, we will delve into 8 unexpected pitfalls of excessive kindness. Each point will draw on Stoic wisdom, offering insights from great philosophers like Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius. By the end, you will have a deeper understanding of how to balance your kindness in a way that preserves your well-being while still being there for others. So, let's dive in and uncover the complexities of kindness in our modern lives. 1. The danger of overcommitting yourself. Imagine living in bustling Chicago, where Mike, a dedicated software developer, finds himself in a familiar predicament. He's known among his friends and colleagues as the reliable guy, the one who always steps up to help. If a coworker is struggling to meet a deadline, Mike is the first to offer to take on extra work. When his neighbor needs help moving furniture or fixing a leaky sink, he eagerly agrees, despite already having plans to catch up on his own projects or enjoy a well-deserved break. At first glance, Mike's willingness to help seems commendable. After all, isn't kindness one of the highest virtues we can aspire to? However, as the days pass and the commitments pile up, Mike begins to feel the weight of his choices. With each new obligation, he stretches his already tight schedule thinner, leaving little room for his own needs and desires. The pressure mounts, and soon he finds himself overwhelmed, working late into the night, missing out on social events, and feeling increasingly irritable and exhausted. This scenario illustrates a phenomenon many of us experience: the danger of overcommitting ourselves. Stoic philosophers like Epictetus emphasized the importance of knowing our limits and living in accordance with nature. He taught that understanding our personal boundaries is essential for maintaining our well-being. By taking on too much, we fail to honor our own needs, which can lead not only to stress but also to resentment towards those we are trying to help. The Stoics believed in the concept of moderation, expressing that virtue lies in balance. Imagine your life as a teacup. Every commitment you make is like a drop of tea. When you pour in too much, it overflows, creating a mess that benefits no one. The challenge is to recognize the size of your cup, your capacity for commitments, and to act within those limits. It's not about being unkind. It's about being kind to yourself first. Consider the last time you promised to help someone when you were already swamped. Maybe it was a birthday party, a family gathering, or a volunteer event. You started the day with good intentions, but by the end, you were exhausted, irritable, and not fully present for any of the activities. This is the weight of overcommitment, and it can take a toll on both your mental and physical health. The Stoics encourage us to pause before we promise to help. Reflect on your capacity and the potential impact on your own well-being. Remember, saying no can sometimes be the kindest thing you can do for yourself and for others. When you respect your limits, you're in a better position to offer genuine help and support to those in need. Let's return to Mike. After some reflection, he realizes he needs to set boundaries. The next time a coworker asks for help, he takes a moment to consider his current workload. Instead of immediately agreeing to help on their project, he responds thoughtfully. "I'd love to help, but I need to check my schedule first. Can I get back to you in a few hours?" This pause gives Mike the opportunity to assess his commitments. After reviewing his tasks, he realizes he can offer to assist in a more manageable way, perhaps suggesting he can review their work instead of taking on additional tasks. By doing so, he maintains his integrity and helps others without sacrificing his own needs. In addition to setting boundaries, it's essential to communicate them clearly to those around you. Let's say Mike decides to tell his friends that he's cutting back on commitments for a while. He explains that he's focusing on his well-being and that while he still wants to help, he needs to prioritize his own time and energy. True friends will understand and respect those boundaries, and in many cases, they might even appreciate his honesty. As we navigate the complexities of modern life, it's crucial to recognize the signs of overcommitment. Are you feeling anxious or stressed about upcoming obligations? Do you find yourself resenting friends or family members for asking for help? These feelings can serve as red flags, signaling that it may be time to reevaluate your commitments. Another practical tip comes from the Stoic practice of reflection. At the end of each day, take a moment to assess what you accomplished and how you felt throughout the day. Did you overcommit? Did you take time for yourself? This daily reflection can help you become more aware of your limits and encourage you to make more intentional decisions about how you allocate your time. Moreover, consider the impact of overcommitting not just on yourself but also on those you aim to help. When you stretch yourself too thin, the quality of your support diminishes. You may show up physically, but your mental and emotional presence could be lacking. This can lead to less meaningful interactions, and ultimately, the very kindness you wish to extend can become diluted. In conclusion, the danger of overcommitting yourself is a common pitfall that many well-meaning individuals face. By recognizing your limits and setting clear boundaries, you can practice kindness in a way that honors both yourself and those you wish to support. Remember that the Stoics teach us the importance of moderation and self-awareness. As you move forward, strive to find that balance so you can offer genuine help without sacrificing your own well-being. As we continue this exploration of the 8 ways kindness can backfire, let's move on to the next section and discuss the trap of people-pleasing, which often leads us to overcommit in the first place. 2. The trap of people-pleasing. In the vibrant city of Los Angeles, Jessica, an aspiring actress, navigates the complexities of her social and professional life with a constant desire to be liked. She finds herself caught in the trap of people-pleasing, a behavior that many of us can relate to. Whether it's agreeing to go out when she'd rather stay in, laughing at jokes she doesn't find funny, or supporting opinions that don't resonate with her, Jessica's life becomes a careful balancing act of maintaining appearances and seeking approval from those around her. At first glance, it might seem harmless, even admirable, to want to make others happy. The drive to please people often stems from a desire for connection and acceptance. However, as Jessica learns, this behavior can quickly spiral into a cycle of inauthenticity and exhaustion. The Stoics, particularly Seneca, understood that true virtue lies in authenticity and self-awareness. He famously stated, "A good character, which is the only basis for a good life, is the only thing that can never be taken from you." As Jessica navigates her daily interactions, she begins to feel the strain of her people-pleasing tendencies. The constant effort to conform to others' expectations leaves her feeling drained and disconnected from her true self. She finds herself saying yes to invitations out of obligation rather than genuine interest, often leading to resentment. For instance, she might agree to attend a party where she feels uncomfortable simply to avoid the awkwardness of declining an invitation from a friend. This is where the danger of people-pleasing lies. It often leads to a loss of identity. The more Jessica tries to mold herself to fit the likes and expectations of others, the more she forgets who she truly is and what she genuinely wants. This disconnect can lead to anxiety and feelings of inadequacy as she constantly measures her worth against others' opinions. The Stoics teach us that we cannot control others' perceptions or opinions, only our own reactions and behaviors. Epictetus famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." In the context of people-pleasing, this means recognizing that the need for external validation is often rooted in insecurity. When we seek approval from others, we give away our power, allowing their opinions to dictate our self-worth. To combat the trap of people-pleasing, it's essential to cultivate self-awareness and authenticity. Jessica begins to reflect on her motivations for pleasing others. She asks herself, why do I feel the need to conform? What do I truly want? This introspection is the first step toward breaking the cycle of people-pleasing. By understanding her own values and desires, Jessica can reclaim her power and make choices that align with her true self. One practical strategy for overcoming people-pleasing is learning to say no. This can be difficult, especially if you're used to accommodating others' needs at the expense of your own. However, saying no doesn't mean being unkind. It means respecting your own boundaries and prioritizing your well-being. For example, when a friend invites Jessica to another party she's not excited about, she learns to respond honestly. "I appreciate the invite, but I need to take some time for myself this weekend." Initially, Jessica feels guilty for declining the invitation, fearing that she might disappoint her friend. However, as she practices this new approach, she begins to realize that her true friends will understand and respect her boundaries. By being honest about her preferences, she fosters more authentic relationships built on mutual respect rather than obligation. Additionally, the Stoics encourage us to focus on what we can control. Instead of worrying about whether others will approve of her choices, Jessica starts to concentrate on her own actions and values. She reminds herself that her worth is not defined by how much she can please others. This shift in mindset allows her to embrace her individuality and make choices that resonate with her authentic self. As Jessica continues her journey, she discovers the importance of surrounding herself with supportive individuals who appreciate her for who she is rather than who she pretends to be. By distancing herself from toxic relationships that thrive on her need to please, she creates space for more genuine connections. This doesn't mean severing ties with everyone. Rather, it's about evaluating the dynamics of her relationships and choosing to invest in those that uplift and inspire her. Throughout this process, Jessica learns to practice self-compassion. She acknowledges that breaking free from the habit of people-pleasing takes time and effort. There will be moments of slip-ups where she might find herself falling back into old patterns. However, instead of criticizing herself, she embraces these experiences as opportunities for growth. The Stoics teach us that we should treat ourselves with the same kindness we extend to others. By practicing self-compassion, Jessica can navigate her journey towards authenticity with grace. As we delve into the complexities of kindness and its potential pitfalls, it's clear that the trap of people-pleasing can hinder our ability to engage in genuine acts of kindness. When we prioritize others' approval over our own well-being, we risk losing sight of who we truly are. The Stoics remind us that authenticity is a cornerstone of virtue, and by embracing our true selves, we can cultivate healthier, more meaningful relationships. In summary, while the desire to please others may seem innocent, it can lead to a series of negative consequences if left unchecked. By cultivating self-awareness, learning to say no, and focusing on what we can control, we can break free from the cycle of people-pleasing. Jessica's journey serves as a reminder that kindness should not come at the expense of our authenticity. As we move forward, let's explore the next pitfall of kindness, the futility of trying to change others. 3. Why you can't change others. In the vibrant city of Miami, Carlos finds himself in a familiar yet frustrating situation with a close friend, Jake, who struggles with unhealthy habits. Jake is a talented musician, but he consistently prioritizes partying over his music career. Time after time, Carlos watches Jake miss important gigs and opportunities because of his lifestyle choices. Wanting to help his friend and believing he can make a difference, Carlos embarks on a mission to change Jake's behavior. Initially, Carlos approaches the situation with optimism. He invites Jake out for coffee, hoping to have a heart-to-heart conversation about his choices. "You have so much potential, man. If you just cut back on partying, you could really make a name for yourself," Carlos says earnestly. However, as the weeks pass, Carlos realizes that his attempts to influence Jake are met with resistance and indifference. Jake brushes off Carlos's concerns, insisting that he enjoys his lifestyle and sees no reason to change. This scenario illustrates a critical truth that many of us learn the hard way. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. The Stoic philosophers, particularly Epictetus, emphasized the importance of recognizing what is within our control and what is not. Epictetus taught that we cannot control others' actions, thoughts, or choices. We can only control how we respond to them. This fundamental principle is essential for understanding the futility of trying to change others. As Carlos grapples with his frustration, he begins to reflect on his motivations. Why does he feel compelled to change Jake? Is it out of genuine concern for his friend, or is it rooted in Carlos's own insecurities? This introspection is crucial. It allows Carlos to step back and consider the impact of his actions. By trying to change Jake, Carlos inadvertently places the burden of his expectations onto his friend, which can lead to feelings of guilt, resentment, and disappointment on both sides. The Stoics would argue that true kindness lies in acceptance rather than control. Instead of attempting to change Jake, Carlos could focus on offering support without imposing his views. This shift in mindset allows Carlos to be present for Jake, providing encouragement and understanding without the pressure of expectation. For example, instead of lecturing Jake about his choices, Carlos can invite him to a music event or share stories of successful musicians who balanced their passions with a healthy lifestyle. By doing so, Carlos creates an environment in which Jake may eventually feel inspired to make changes on his own if he chooses to do so. It's also important to recognize that everyone is on their own journey. Each person has their own set of experiences, beliefs, and values that shape their decisions. While Carlos sees Jake's potential, Jake may not be ready to embrace it. The Stoics remind us that we must respect others' paths even if they differ from our own. This principle is rooted in the understanding that each individual has the right to make their own choices, regardless of whether those choices align with our desires or beliefs. To illustrate this further, consider the story of a teacher who has a student struggling to keep up in class. The teacher believes that if the student just applied themselves more, they would excel. However, no amount of coaxing or encouragement seems to make a difference. In this scenario, the teacher must recognize that they cannot force the student to change their study habits or motivation. Instead, the teacher can provide resources, support, and a nurturing environment, allowing the student to find their own way. This principle of acceptance can also be applied to relationships. In romantic partnerships, for example, one partner may desire to change the other's habits, whether it's a tendency to procrastinate or a preference for a certain lifestyle. The desire to change a partner often stems from a place of love and care, but it can lead to tension and conflict. The Stoics would advise individuals to focus on cultivating their own virtues and leading by example rather than attempting to control or change their partner. By embodying the values you wish to see in others, you create an environment where change can occur organically if and when the other person is ready. As Carlos reflects on his friendship with Jake, he realizes that his role is not to change Jake, but to support him as he navigates his own choices. This shift alleviates the pressure he feels and allows him to enjoy their friendship without the burden of expectation. Carlos begins to set aside judgment and adopts a more compassionate mindset, recognizing that his friend's journey is not his own. In addition to fostering acceptance, the Stoics encourage us to focus on our actions and how we can improve ourselves rather than fixating on others. This self-reflection can lead to personal growth and ultimately strengthen our relationships. By redirecting our energy towards self-improvement, we become more resilient and better equipped to handle the challenges that arise in our interactions with others. It's also essential to acknowledge that while we can't change others, we can create boundaries that protect our emotional well-being. If Jake's behavior continues to negatively impact Carlos, it's important for Carlos to evaluate how much energy he invests in the friendship. Setting boundaries doesn't mean cutting ties, it simply means recognizing when a relationship becomes toxic or unbalanced. In summary, the realization that we cannot change others is a vital lesson in the journey of kindness. By accepting people as they are and focusing on our own actions, we cultivate healthier relationships built on mutual respect and understanding. The Stoics remind us that true kindness lies in acceptance, support, and the recognition of individual journeys. As we continue our exploration of kindness and its potential pitfalls, let's move on to the next section. 4. The risk of being taken advantage of. In the vibrant city of Seattle, Emma, a talented graphic designer, has built a reputation for her generosity and willingness to help others. Friends and colleagues often rely on her for creative projects, seeking her expertise and asking for favors. Emma is always eager to lend a hand, whether it's designing a flyer for a friend's event or helping a colleague with a last-minute presentation. However, as time goes on, Emma starts to notice a troubling trend. People often take her kindness for granted. At first, Emma feels fulfilled by her generosity. She believes that helping others is a key component of her identity and that her skills can make a positive impact. However, as she continues to say yes to every request, she begins to feel overwhelmed and unappreciated. The late nights spent working on others' projects cut into her own time, and she finds herself sacrificing her own deadlines to accommodate the needs of others. This situation highlights a crucial aspect of kindness that many overlook: the risk of being taken advantage of. While generosity is a virtue, it can easily become a double-edged sword if we fail to establish boundaries. The Stoics, such as Seneca, emphasized the importance of moderation in all things, including kindness. Seneca reminds us there is no greater evil than to make a gift of what is not yours. In other words, if our generosity comes at the expense of our own well-being, we must reevaluate our approach. As Emma navigates her growing frustration, she starts to recognize the signs that her kindness is being exploited. For example, she might receive a last-minute request for help only to realize that the person asking has a pattern of relying on her without reciprocating. Emma feels a pang of resentment as she understands that her generosity is being taken for granted. The first step in addressing this issue is to acknowledge the importance of setting boundaries. Boundaries are not walls, rather, they are guidelines that help protect our time, energy, and emotional well-being. By clearly communicating what we are willing to do, we create a framework that allows us to maintain our generosity without sacrificing ourselves. Emma begins to implement this practice by reflecting on her own limits and the value of her time. She starts to ask herself questions like, how much time do I have available? Is this request reasonable? Will helping this person detract from my own priorities? By assessing each request against her own capacity, Emma can determine whether she can genuinely help without feeling overwhelmed. For instance, when a friend approaches her for help with a large project, Emma takes a moment to consider her current workload. Instead of immediately agreeing, she responds, I'd love to help, but I have a few deadlines coming up. Can we break this down into smaller tasks and tackle them together? This approach allows Emma to remain supportive while still prioritizing her own responsibilities. It's also essential for Emma to recognize that being kind does not mean being available at all times. By establishing clear boundaries, she communicates to others that her time is valuable. This does not diminish her kindness, rather, it enhances it by ensuring that her help is genuine and sustainable. Another important aspect of setting boundaries involves learning to say no. As someone who has always prided herself on being accommodating, Emma finds this challenging. However, she understands that saying no doesn't imply being unkind. It's a necessary step to protect her own well-being. For example, when a colleague asks her to take on a project that she knows will require significant time and effort, Emma practices saying, I appreciate you thinking of me, but I cannot take on any additional work right now. Initially, she worries about disappointing her colleague, but she soon realizes that by being honest about her limits, she fosters a more respectful and balanced relationship. The Stoics teach us that it is essential to detach ourselves from the outcomes of our decisions. When we help others, we should do so out of genuine kindness, not out of a desire for recognition or gratitude. Emma begins to embrace this philosophy, understanding that her worth is not defined by how much she can do for others. Instead, she focuses on the intrinsic value of her actions, giving without the expectation of receiving. By practicing this mindset, Emma creates a healthier dynamic in her relationships. As she prioritizes her own needs and sets boundaries, she notices that the people around her begin to respect her time and efforts. Friends who genuinely appreciate her contributions will understand when she cannot accommodate every request. In contrast, those who take her kindness for granted may reveal themselves, prompting Emma to reconsider the depth of those relationships. As Emma continues to navigate her journey, she finds empowerment in her newfound ability to say no and prioritize her well-being. She learns that it's okay to be selective about the projects she takes on and to reserve time for her own creative pursuits. The balance between helping others and caring for herself becomes clearer, and she feels less burdened by the weight of others' expectations. Furthermore, Emma discovers that reciprocity is a vital component of healthy relationships. True friendship involves a mutual exchange of support where both parties contribute to one another's well-being. By setting boundaries, Emma encourages a culture of respect and appreciation among her friends and colleagues. She creates an environment where kindness is not one-sided but rather a shared value that strengthens their connections. In conclusion, while kindness is a beautiful virtue, it carries the risk of being taken advantage of if we do not establish boundaries. By recognizing the importance of setting limits, communicating our needs, and practicing self-care, we can offer our help in a way that honors both ourselves and those we wish to support. The Stoics remind us that moderation and self-awareness are essential in cultivating meaningful relationships. As we continue our exploration of kindness and its potential pitfalls, let's move on to the next section. 5. The need for self-care, why you matter too. In the bustling city of Boston, David, a passionate high school teacher, dedicates his life to his students. He prides himself on being the supportive figure who goes above and beyond to help them succeed. Whether it's staying late to help struggling students with their homework, organizing extracurricular activities, or providing emotional support to those in need, David is always there for his students. However, as the school year progresses, he finds himself increasingly drained and overwhelmed. David's commitment to his students is admirable, but it comes at a cost. He often skips his lunch breaks to grade papers, forgoes exercise to stay late at school, and neglects his own social life. As a result, he begins to feel burnt out, irritable, and emotionally exhausted. The very kindness that drives him to help others starts to take a toll on his own well-being. This situation highlights a crucial aspect of kindness that many overlook: the need for self-care. While helping others is a noble pursuit, it is essential to recognize that we cannot pour from an empty cup. The Stoics, particularly Seneca, understood the importance of self-reflection and self-care. Seneca famously said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." In the context of kindness, this quote reminds us that neglecting our own needs can lead to a depletion of our ability to genuinely help others. As David experiences the symptoms of burnout, he realizes that his dedication to his students has led him to neglect his own physical and mental health. He often feels guilty for taking time for himself, believing that he should always be available for his students. However, this mindset is unsustainable and ultimately counterproductive. When we prioritize everyone else's needs over our own, we risk becoming resentful and ineffective in our roles. To combat this issue, David begins to implement self-care practices into his routine. He starts by carving out time for himself each day, whether it's a short walk during lunch, a workout after school, or simply taking a moment to breathe and reflect. These small yet significant adjustments help him recharge and regain energy. The Stoics teach us the value of reflection. Taking time to check in with ourselves allows us to assess our mental and emotional states, which is crucial for maintaining balance. For example, David sets a goal to spend at least 30 minutes each day engaging in activities that bring him joy. This could be reading a book, going for a run, or even practicing mindfulness through meditation. By prioritizing self-care, he finds that he is better equipped to support his students. He feels more energized in the classroom and more present during lessons, which benefits both him and his students. Moreover, David learns to establish boundaries around his work commitments. He recognizes that while it's important to be dedicated, it's equally important to protect his personal time. By setting clear limits on his availability, he communicates to his colleagues and students that he values his own well-being. For instance, he decides to stop bringing work home, allowing himself to fully disconnect from school responsibilities during his evenings and weekends. This decision not only alleviates his stress but also helps him return to work with a fresh perspective. Another essential aspect of self-care is understanding that it's not selfish to take time for yourself. The Stoics believed in the importance of self-awareness and the recognition that we are all part of a larger community. By taking care of ourselves, we enable ourselves to contribute more effectively to that community. David starts to embrace the idea that by prioritizing his well-being, he can be a better teacher and mentor to his students. As David continues to practice self-care, he notices a shift in his relationships with his students. With more energy and enthusiasm, he fosters a more positive and engaging classroom environment. Students respond to his renewed spirit, and he finds that they are more motivated and involved in their learning. He becomes a role model not only in academics but also in demonstrating the importance of balance and self-respect. Additionally, David realizes that self-care is not just about physical health, it also involves emotional and mental well-being. He begins to explore mindfulness practices such as journaling and meditation to help manage stress and maintain a positive outlook. By taking time each day to reflect on his thoughts and feelings, he gains clarity and perspective, allowing him to approach challenges with a calm and focused mindset. In conclusion, the need for self-care is a vital component of practicing kindness. While it's admirable to dedicate ourselves to helping others, we must also prioritize our own well-being to sustain our ability to do so. The Stoics remind us that self-awareness and moderation are essential in cultivating a balanced life. By recognizing the importance of self-care, David learns that he can be both a supportive teacher and a fulfilled individual. As we continue our exploration of kindness and its potential pitfalls, let's move on to the next section. 6. The consequences of avoiding conflict. In the dynamic city of Denver, Maria, a project manager at a tech startup, prides herself on being a team player. She has a reputation for being easygoing and accommodating, often going out of her way to maintain harmony within her team. However, this desire to keep the peace comes at a cost. Maria frequently avoids confrontations even when she feels strongly about a particular issue. She believes that addressing disagreements will create tension, so she often chooses to stay silent, letting small annoyances slide. One day, during a team meeting, Maria's colleague Alex presents a project idea that she believes is flawed. In her mind, she has valid concerns about the plan's feasibility and its potential impact on their timeline. However, instead of voicing her thoughts, Maria nods along, choosing to avoid conflict. As the weeks progress, the project begins to unravel due to the oversight, and Maria finds herself grappling with a growing sense of frustration. This scenario illustrates a common pitfall of kindness. The avoidance of conflict can lead to larger issues down the road. The Stoics understood that conflict is a natural part of life. Rather than shying away from disagreements, they advocated for confronting them directly. Epictetus famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When we avoid conflict, we often allow small grievances to fester, leading to resentment and misunderstandings. Maria's reluctance to speak up not only affects her but also her entire team. By failing to address her concerns, she inadvertently contributes to the project's failure and compromises her team's success. This situation highlights the importance of open communication and the need to address issues before they escalate. To navigate the complexities of conflict, Maria begins to reflect on her motivations for avoiding confrontation. She realizes that her fear of conflict stems from a desire to be liked and to maintain a positive image. This realization prompts her to reconsider her approach. Maria understands that being a good team member doesn't mean sacrificing her opinions or suppressing her feelings. Rather, it involves expressing her thoughts respectfully and constructively. One effective strategy for addressing conflict is to reframe how we view it. Instead of seeing conflict as something negative, Maria learns to view it as an opportunity for growth and collaboration. By engaging in healthy discussions, she can contribute to better outcomes for her team and foster a culture of openness. For instance, in a subsequent meeting, Maria decides to voice her concerns about a proposed strategy. "I appreciate the hard work that went into this idea, but I have some reservations about the timeline and resources," she states. By framing her concerns in a constructive manner, Maria creates space for dialogue rather than defensiveness. This approach invites her colleagues to share their perspectives, leading to a more thorough discussion of the project's potential challenges. As Maria practices this new approach, she begins to notice a shift in her relationships with her teammates. They appreciate her honesty and recognize that she brings valuable insights to the table. Instead of fearing conflict, Maria finds that her contributions enhance the quality of their work and foster a sense of trust among team members. Additionally, the Stoics remind us that facing challenges head-on builds resilience. When we confront difficult conversations, we develop the skills needed to navigate future conflicts with confidence. Maria learns that by addressing issues early on, she prevents small annoyances from becoming significant problems. To further support her growth, Maria seeks out resources on effective communication and conflict resolution. She attends workshops and reads books on the topic, gaining valuable tools to help her express her thoughts more effectively. By investing in her personal development, she empowers herself to engage in constructive conversations without fear. It's also important for Maria to recognize that not all conflicts will lead to resolutions that satisfy everyone. However, engaging in open dialogue allows for a more inclusive decision-making process where all voices are heard. This collaborative approach fosters a sense of ownership among team members and strengthens their commitment to the project. Moreover, Maria begins to understand the importance of setting boundaries when it comes to conflict. While open communication is vital, she realizes that there are times when it's necessary to disengage from toxic interactions. If a conversation becomes hostile or unproductive, it's okay to step back and revisit the issue later. The Stoics teach us that we have control over our reactions and can choose to engage only in discussions that are constructive and respectful. In conclusion, the consequences of avoiding conflict can lead to significant challenges in our relationships and work. By reframing our perspective on conflict and embracing open communication, we can foster healthier interactions and prevent small grievances from escalating into larger issues. The Stoics remind us that resilience and strength come from facing challenges head-on, and by doing so, we create opportunities for growth and collaboration. 7. The perils of excessive giving. In the sunny city of Atlanta, James is known among his friends and family as the person who is always willing to help. Whether it's lending a hand with a home renovation project, providing financial support to a friend in need, or volunteering his time at local charities, James pours his heart into every act of kindness. However, as time passes, he begins to feel the weight of his generosity pressing down on him. James's friends often approach him with requests, confident that he will oblige. "Hey, can I borrow $200 until payday? Or could you help me move this weekend? I really need an extra pair of hands." At first, James is more than happy to help. After all, he takes pride in being supportive and reliable. Yet, as these requests accumulate, he starts to feel stretched thin. He finds himself depleting his savings to help others while sacrificing his own financial stability. This situation highlights a critical aspect of kindness that many overlook: the perils of excessive giving. While generosity is a virtue, it can quickly turn into a burden if we fail to recognize our own limits. The Stoics, particularly Seneca, emphasized the importance of moderation in all things. In his writings, Seneca notes, "It is not how much we have, but how much we enjoy that makes happiness." This wisdom serves as a reminder that generosity should not come at the expense of our own well-being. As James reflects on his situation, he begins to recognize the signs that his generosity has become excessive. He feels drained and anxious about his finances, wondering when he will have enough left for himself. The stress of constantly giving begins to overshadow the joy he once felt in helping others. This realization prompts him to reevaluate his approach to generosity. The first step in addressing this issue is to understand the concept of sustainable giving. Sustainable giving means recognizing your own needs and ensuring that you maintain a balance between helping others and taking care of yourself. James starts to ask himself important questions. How much can I reasonably give without jeopardizing my own financial stability? Am I helping because I genuinely want to, or do I feel obligated to do so? To combat the pitfalls of excessive giving, James begins to set clear boundaries around his generosity. He decides to allocate a specific budget for charitable contributions and personal support each month. By doing this, he can continue to help others while ensuring that his own financial health remains intact. For example, instead of lending money to friends, James offers to help them brainstorm solutions to their financial challenges or connects them with resources that may assist them. This way, he maintains his supportive nature without compromising his own stability. Additionally, James learns the importance of prioritizing his own needs. He realizes that if he continues to give without considering his own well-being, he may eventually reach a breaking point. The Stoics teach us that self-care is not selfish. It is essential for maintaining our capacity to help others. By taking care of himself, James can be in a better position to support his friends and family in a meaningful way. As James practices setting boundaries, he finds that his relationships begin to shift. Friends who truly appreciate his kindness respect his limits and understand when he cannot provide assistance. This leads to more authentic connections where support is based on mutual respect rather than obligation. James discovers that he can still be generous without losing sight of his own priorities. Moreover, James starts to explore the idea of giving time rather than resources. He realizes that sometimes the most valuable gift he can offer is his time and attention. Instead of automatically reaching for his wallet, he begins to ask himself how he can support others in ways that do not compromise his own well-being. For example, he starts volunteering at a local community center where he can contribute his skills and time without the stress of financial implications. This shift not only allows James to maintain his generosity but also enriches his life in unexpected ways. He discovers new passions and connections as he engages with his community. By focusing on giving his time and talents, he finds fulfillment in making a difference that doesn't deplete his resources. To further enhance his understanding of sustainable giving, James seeks out literature and resources on the topic. He reads about the importance of balance in generosity and learns about the concept of intentional giving. This approach emphasizes thoughtful contributions that align with one's values and priorities. By being intentional about how he gives, James finds that he can cultivate a more meaningful impact without sacrificing his own well-being. In conclusion, while generosity is a beautiful virtue, it carries the risk of becoming burdensome if we do not establish boundaries. By recognizing the importance of sustainable giving, setting clear limits, and prioritizing our own needs, we can practice kindness in a way that honors both ourselves and those we wish to support. The Stoics remind us that moderation and self-awareness are essential in cultivating meaningful relationships and a fulfilling life. 8. The quest for approval, why it undermines kindness. In the bustling streets of San Francisco, Lily is a social media influencer known for her vibrant personality and generous spirit. Her followers admire her for her kindness and ability to uplift others. However, beneath the surface, Lily grapples with an internal struggle. Her desire for approval often drives her actions more than her genuine intentions do. As she curates her online presence, she finds herself questioning whether her kindness stems from a place of authenticity or a need for validation. Lily's journey begins with a simple act of kindness. She posts a heartfelt message on her social media platform, sharing a story about a friend who overcame significant challenges. The post receives an outpouring of positive comments and likes, and for a moment, Lily feels a rush of validation. However, as she continues to share her acts of kindness, she begins to notice a troubling pattern. Her motivation shifts from genuine desire to help others to seeking approval from her audience. This scenario highlights a crucial aspect of kindness that many overlook. The quest for approval can undermine the authenticity of our actions. The Stoics understood that true virtue lies in the intent behind our actions rather than the recognition we receive. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reminds us, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. This wisdom serves as a powerful reminder that our worth is not determined by external validation, but by our actions and character. As Lily navigates her online presence, she starts to feel the pressure to maintain her image as the kind influencer. She finds herself constantly seeking likes and comments, often reshaping her kindness to fit the expectations of her followers. For example, she may choose to donate to a charity not purely out of desire to support the cause, but rather to create content that will garner attention and praise. This realization prompts her to reflect on her motivations and the impact of seeking approval on her well-being. To combat this issue, Lily begins to explore the concept of intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is driven by internal desires and values, while extrinsic motivation relies on external validation and rewards. The Stoics advocate for intrinsic motivation. They teach us that true kindness comes from a genuine desire to help others rather than a need for recognition or praise. Lily decides to take a step back from her social media presence and reassess her approach to kindness. She starts by asking herself, what do I truly value? Why do I want to help others? By engaging in this introspective process, she begins to uncover her authentic motivations. She realizes that she genuinely wants to make a positive impact in people's lives, but her desire for approval has clouded her intentions. As part of her journey, Lily also learns the importance of setting boundaries around her social media engagement. She decides to limit the amount of time she spends curating her online persona, focusing instead on genuine interactions with her friends and family. By prioritizing face-to-face connections, she finds greater fulfillment in her relationships, free from the pressures of social media validation. Moreover, Lily begins to practice acts of kindness that are not shared publicly. She volunteers at local shelters, helps neighbors in need, and engages in random acts of kindness without documenting them online. This shift allows her to experience the joy of giving without the weight of expectation. Over time, she discovers that the most fulfilling acts of kindness are those done in silence without the need for recognition. As Lily embraces this new approach, she notices a significant change in her overall well-being. She feels less anxious about her online presence and more connected to her authentic self. The pressure to perform for an audience diminishes, and she finds joy in the simple act of helping others. The Stoics teach us that true happiness comes from living in accordance with our values, and Lily begins to embody this wisdom. Additionally, Lily learns to cultivate self-compassion. She acknowledges that her journey toward authenticity is ongoing and that it's okay to have moments of insecurity. Instead of criticizing herself for seeking approval in the past, she embraces those experiences as opportunities for growth. The Stoics remind us that we are all human and our imperfections are part of the journey. In conclusion, the quest for approval can undermine the authenticity of our kindness. By recognizing the importance of intrinsic motivation, setting boundaries around social media engagement, and practicing self-compassion, we can cultivate a more genuine approach to kindness. The Stoics remind us that true virtue lies in our actions and intentions, not in the recognition we receive. Finding balance in kindness the Stoic way. As we conclude our exploration of kindness and its potential pitfalls, it's important to reflect on the journey we've taken together. Throughout this video, we've discussed the complexities of kindness, how it can lead to overcommitment, the dangers of people-pleasing, the futility of trying to change others, the risk of being taken advantage of, the necessity of self-care, the consequences of avoiding conflict, the perils of excessive giving, and the quest for approval. Each of these aspects highlights the need for balance in our pursuit of kindness. In the modern world, where we often feel pressured to be the nice person, it's vital to remember that true kindness is not about self-sacrifice or seeking validation. Instead, it's about understanding our limits, setting boundaries, and cultivating authentic relationships. The Stoic philosophers, from Marcus Aurelius to Seneca, have imparted timeless wisdom that encourages us to practice moderation and self-awareness in our interactions with others. Finding balance in kindness requires us to prioritize our well-being while still being there for those in need. This means recognizing when to say no, understanding that conflict can be constructive, and being mindful of our motivations. By embracing these principles, we can become more effective and genuine in our acts of kindness. For instance, consider the story of David, the teacher who learned to prioritize self-care. By taking time for himself and establishing boundaries, he transformed his ability to support his students. Rather than feeling drained, he became a source of inspiration and positivity in their lives. This is the essence of Stoic wisdom. By caring for ourselves, we enhance our capacity to care for others. As we navigate our own paths, let's commit to practicing kindness that is sustainable and rooted in authenticity. Reflect on your motivations and ask yourself, are my actions aligned with my values? Am I giving in a way that enriches both myself and others? These questions can guide us toward a more balanced approach to kindness. Now, I invite you to take a moment to reflect on your own experiences with kindness. How can you implement the Stoic principles we've discussed today in your daily life? Whether it's setting boundaries, prioritizing self-care, or embracing conflict as an opportunity for growth, each small step can lead to a more fulfilling and meaningful life. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the complexities of kindness. If you found value in this video, please consider subscribing to the Stoic Vivu channel. By doing so, you'll stay updated on our latest content that makes Stoic philosophy accessible and practical for modern life. Don't forget to like and share this video with others who might benefit from these insights. Together, we can create a community that embraces authentic kindness and supports one another on our journeys. Remember, As you practice kindness in your life, may you find the balance that allows you to uplift others while honoring your own needs. Be kind, be wise, and always stay true to yourself.